Okay, good evening, everybody. My name is Marshall Claveau. Welcome to Solarize West Michigan / Grand Rapids. It's our first event of 2026. So very happy to be here. We did a number of these programs in 2025. Great success and looking to continue. Next slide, please. So a little bit about GLRA, the Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association. It's one of the older nonprofits here in the state of Michigan, advocating, implementing, and educating on renewable energy. Member-based organization, so individual members, business members, welcome everyone to sign up. Very active in the policy space, driven, really by our install partners. Got a great one here tonight, Absolute Solar, really one of the best in the business, in it for all the right reasons. Next slide, please. I really like to show this slide. I think it really helps illuminate where we are in our energy future. Thank you to the National Renewable Energy Lab, Livermore, for allowing us to use this graphic. You can see here the breakdown of energy. At the very top, that yellow line is the solar line. So as the state of Michigan has very ambitious renewable energy targets by 2030, 2035, and 2040, we really need to increase our renewable energy. That's why we're here. Whether it's solar, wind, geothermal. You can really see from the rejected energy, all that gray on the right-hand side, that's the output of fossil fuels, wasted heat, long transmission lines where energy is burned. I just feel like this graphic really kind of helps settle where we're at. Next slide, please. A little bit about our Michigan Solar Communities Guidebook. The guidebook is a practical resource for local units of government, businesses, nonprofits. I really like to say it has everything under the sun. You can find that guidebook for download at glrea.org. I can also get you physical copies. We're actually in the process right now of updating it. So it was about 70, 80 pages before, a little long. So we've boiled it down to maybe about 60 pages. And so we'll have those new ones printed pretty soon. Next slide, please. This slide is just to help download the guidebook. So don't feel like you have to take photos now. We'll send these slides out to participants afterwards. That's why we're recording the meeting. And as well to send out to your peers. One of the, the model of the Solarize campaign is to be able to share with your neighbors, friends, family, businesses, fellow places of worship. So that's why we like to include this slide. Next slide, please. This is a graphic here showing the breadth of Solarize across the state of Michigan. So it is a statewide effort. GLRA, we're a statewide organization. Solarize itself started in Ann Arbor in 2022, and then the state of Michigan, EGLE, Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, reached out to GLRA asking us to expand the program statewide. So I've been at this work for the last 3 years. We did a megawatt of energy last year, 160 sales. So really, the program's been growing every year. As you can see, we really do have a footprint statewide, including the UP. We had our first event there last year in Alger County, and we're going back in September to Marquette. So next slide, please. So what is Solarize? The reason we're here. I like to describe it as really much like the Tupperware model, people of the past, where you'd maybe meet in someone's living room, meet at a community space, much like here today. Thank you to Fountain Street Church for hosting us. Beautiful chapel here. The idea is to bring together friends, family, neighbors to get that the quantities, economies of scale discount. So just for participating, you're going to get a 5% discount on your project, which is huge. In this portion tonight, right now, commercial, business, nonprofit, place of worship, schools, and local units of government are really poised to have, take advantage of the tax credits while they still exist. So the big beautiful bill passed July 4th, 2025, stripped away those residential tax credits. We do have our great elective pay ambassadors here today to help walk through some of that process of redeeming that 30% federal tax credit. If you use domestic content, which Absolute Solar is able to do, is an additional 10%. So, if we get up to 10 projects, that's another 10% discount, 11, all the way up to 15. So we're talking about real savings here. Next slide, please. This is to show that the program is real. We've had over 1,000 participants over the years, 423 estimates, 165 sales, over a megawatt of energy. The number's a little small, but how many dollars of savings we got there? $357,000 of savings just by participating in this program. So the savings are real. And the idea is that we all know someone in the community that could benefit from a stable energy future. And really now could be the last good time to take advantage of these tax credits. For the commercial portion, those do expire at the end of 2027. So time is of the essence to get that project started, get the board meeting underway, get your decision makers in the room to let them know that we ought to take advantage of these discounts while they exist. Next slide, please. Next, we're going to welcome up Michigan Green Building Council. Great elected pay ambassador. Have him take it away.
I need to adjust this a bit. Thank you. Thank you for that introduction, Marshall. I appreciate it.
Try to pull up your slides here for you
Yeah.
so we can roll through them. All right, Wendy Berg, thank you so much for being here. This is a important partnership and
Oh, wait,
they're out of order. Yep.
those are,
Yeah, we'll scroll down to yours. There we are.
okay. This looks better. All right, thank you. Well, hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us here today. As Marshall said, my name is Wendy Berg, and I work for the Michigan Green Building Collaborative, and I also serve as the elective pay ambassador through the Michigan Infrastructure Office Technical Assistance Center, also known as MEOTAC. So ambassadors provide no-cost assistance to nonprofit and tax-exempt organizations through the elective pay program. So today I will be providing an overview of the federal clean energy tax credits that are available to tax-exempt organizations, and explaining how eligible entities can receive these incentives through the elective pay program. We'll cover the types of qualifying projects, key program requirements, and the process tax-exempt organizations need to follow in order to receive the direct cash payment from the IRS for their installations. So my goal today is for you to leave this presentation with a much better understanding of the opportunities that are available and the steps that are needed to successfully navigate the process of elective pay. Next slide, please. Okay, great. MEOTAC launched the Elective Pay Ambassador Program in the fall of 2025 by organizing the state into 10 prosperity regions, each having one or more than one dedicated ambassadors serving each region. The region I represent is number 4, and it's shown in lavender. It's pretty much the middle west side of the state, 13 counties, I believe. Next slide, please. So what are elective pay tax credits? Elective pay tax credits are federal incentives that help reduce the cost of qualifying clean energy projects by providing eligible tax-exempt organizations with direct cash payments from the IRS. The official IRS term is elected pay, but it's also used kind of industry-wide with direct pay. So you will hear those terms used interchangeably. It was created under the Biden administration through the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, and it's providing a mechanism for tax-exempt entities investing in clean energy projects to benefit from federal tax credits. Elective pay can also be combined with grants and loans and other types of funding, and I'll explain a little bit more how that works a little bit later in my presentation. depending on the type of project and tax credit claimed, it can be valued at 30% or more, as Marshall mentioned. And it's uncapped and non-competitive. So organizations can claim as many projects as they have completed in a tax year. Next slide. So the elective pay ambassador program provides technical assistance, resources, and support at no cost to help make the program more accessible, easier to understand, and much easier to navigate. We're making projects more affordable and supporting the goals of the governor's Michigan Healthy Climate Plan. We're also working to bring as many federal funding dollars back to the state of Michigan as possible by helping eligible entities take advantage of the tax credit opportunities that essentially they are entitled to. So if you're considering a clean energy project, please feel free to reach out to one of the ambassadors for support for that process. Next slide, please. So understanding how tax credits are calculated, you start basically with determining the project size and the type of tax credit that it may be eligible for. There's two main categories. There's the investment tax credit category, which is based on the total eligible costs. And then there's also the production tax credits. And those are based on like the monthly amount of energy being produced. This example shows how a investment tax credit is calculated. So for projects under 1 megawatt, they are generally eligible for a base credit of 30%. Projects over 1 megawatt need to meet the prevailing wage and apprenticeship requirements in order to receive that full 30%. If they don't, it's a 6% base. So some of these guidelines are really key and important to pay attention to, so you get that full benefit. Next, you would determine whether the project qualifies for any additional bonus credits. Projects may be eligible for an additional 10% through the Energy Community Bonus Credit, and that's for projects that are located in or near like a close coal plant or a brownfield. There's also an additional 10 to 20% for projects through the Low Income and Tribal Community Bonus Credit, and then also additional 10% for meeting that domestic content that Marshall had mentioned. So you start with that base tax credit amount, and then you add whatever bonuses that may be applicable. Next slide, please. So what are the elective pay eligible investments? Like what qualifies? So eligible projects generally include investments such as solar, wind, geothermal, hydropower, and energy storage infrastructure. Organizations should, keep in mind and be aware that some common like energy improvements, things like energy efficiency upgrades like LED lighting, insulation typically fall outside the category of eligible costs. And eligible costs then typically include expenses that are directly related to installation and operation of the installation and technology. So it's really important before you're moving forward that you establish what your eligible costs are and confirm, that the project qualifies. Next slide. Eligible elective pay entities include a nonprofit and tax exempt organizations. It's kind of a wide range inside that umbrella, but they would include state and local governments, tribal governments, public schools, colleges, universities, nonprofit organizations, generally rural elective cooperatives, and houses of worship. Next slide. So the elective pay process. So once a project has been determined to be eligible, what the eligible costs are, all of that information is collected and saved, so you have a good file of all the documents, because documentation is really important. The IRS has a 6-year look back period, so it's really important to keep all of the paperwork, everything that was involved in the project. So once the project is complete and placed in service, and placed in service means that it's completed, it's ready for, ready for use. It typically means that the construction and installation is completely done. All the required permits and inspections are done. If there's an interconnection agreement needed, that's done. So everything completed, placed in service. And this is important to determine the date, because this determines when the organization can claim the applicable tax credit. And then it would move to pre-filing. And the pre-filing stage, the ambassadors help organizations maneuver that by providing checklists of all the documentations that are needed, like what format they're needed in to be able to be accepted by the IRS portal, all the information that is needed for the organization itself, and then all the information, all the little pieces of information that are needed for the project. And we like to see all of that completed before going into the IRS portal, so that it can be completed in one step. So sometimes that little save and come back later button doesn't always work great. So we try to coach organizations to have everything completely ready and in the right format before logging into that portal and trying to get through that process. And then we even will sit down with an organization and live just go through with them online, working through that process, uploading the documents, making sure everything is done, dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's, so that the approval process goes smoothly without a hiccup and there aren't any delays. So it is recommended that an organization do the pre-filing at least 120 days before the date that they would file their tax return, and that's based on their financial tax year, fiscal tax year. That word. Okay, so once that's all completed, the IRS sends back to the organization a project ID number. And that project ID number is needed in order to file the tax return. You can't file your tax return without that. If you have more than one project that was completed within that tax year, you would do that all at the same time. And each project has to be done separately and have a separate project ID number. Okay, so once the pre-filing is done, you got your project ID number, then the process moves to preparing for the filing of the tax return. And this is the point where the ambassadors, recommend that the organization start working with either their tax professional or somebody within their organization that, is on staff to handle their financial documents or do their tax returns. We are not tax professionals, and we don't give specific tax advice in that aspect. So we recommend that moves then to the tax filing professionals. And then once the tax return is completed and approved, the IRS usually takes about 45 days to 6 months to return the cash payment. And they have moved to a system of direct deposit instead of sending a paper check. So they have mandated recently that moving forward, it's required to have a bank account for the direct deposit. Okay, next slide, please. So through the passing of the HR 1 bill, OBBBA, One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which was passed in July of 2025. It did not eliminate the elective pay tax credits for tax exempt organizations, but it did change some things. Some of the timelines and eligibility requirements were adjusted a bit. So Behind me, you can see there's a chart and it has these dates and things. So the things to pay attention to are that the EV charging credits phased out at the end of June. So those projects had to be installed by June 30th, 2026. Solar and wind projects need to be placed in service now by the end of December 2027. Any projects that were started, excuse me, projects that began construction or met safe harboring requirements, which is 5% of the project costs being put down before July 4th, would have the previous 4 years to complete the project. Anything started after July 4th has to be done by the end of December 2027. Energy storage, hydropower, and geothermal projects, however, have a more extended timeline through 2033 into 2035. HR 1 also introduced new guidelines that are related to prohibited foreign entities for projects placed in service starting January 1, 2026. And those would be the projects shown in blue. So anything solar, wind, energy storage, and hydropower have to follow the prohibited foreign entity guidelines and rules now. Next slide, please. So the new prohibited foreign entity guidelines, PFE as they're referred to, also referred to as foreign entities of concern, or FEOC. So you'll hear those terms, they're kind of used interchangeably. These guidelines address project ownership, financial assistance, such as grants, loans, and bonds, and the sourcing of materials and components. So these requirements are designed to ensure that eligible projects are not associated with China, Iran, Russia, and North Korea. So those are the prohibited foreign entities or the foreign entities of concern. So rather than organizations themselves having to independently verify every supply chain detail, they should, and we recommend that they obtain certification and documentation from their equipment providers, contractors, and manufacturers, confirming compliance with the requirements. Next slide, please. Earlier I mentioned something about prevailing wage and apprenticeship, so I just wanted to touch back on that real quick. And this is another tax credit guideline. It applies to larger projects that are over 1 megawatt. And these projects can qualify for the full 30% tax credit amount if they meet the prevailing wage and apprenticeship requirements. And failure to meet the requirements would reduce that tax credit from 30% to 6%. However, projects that are under 1 megawatt may qualify for an increased credit amount, like a bonus credit, for meeting these requirements, but it's not a penalization if they don't. Just something to be aware of. Next slide, please. So I also mentioned something about the tax credits being able to be combined with grants and loans. And this is referred to as braiding funds. And that just means combining those sources of funding. And they can include things like grants, loans, other fundraising sources also. And this is to help pay for the project. And the IRS has what's called the no excess benefit rule. And this example shows a project that qualified for a 40% tax credit. They received a grant for 70%. So essentially they covered 110% of their eligible project costs, but because of the no excess benefit rule, their tax credit is reduced from the 40% to the 30%. So that's something to keep in mind. You can't get more money than what you paid for the project or what the eligible costs are. And then also there's some guidelines around fundraising as well. So if an organization wants to do fundraising specific for like a solar installation or something, it is recommended that they use general verbiage on their promotion of that fundraising so that it's going to the general funds and not specific to the project. And that way, it could not be seen as restricted or may not be seen as restricted funds if it's presented in that way. Okay, so I'm almost done. Next slide, please. Financing your project. So there's a couple of organizations in Michigan that are really helpful. One is the Michigan Climate Investment Hub, headed up by Ben DeWicki. They offer guidance on available financing resources. And then there's also Michigan Saves, which offers bridge loans and other financing options as well. And I will be here throughout the presentation and after if anybody has questions about a particular project or just in general that they want to address, I'll be around. I also have some flyers in the back with my contact information that you can take home with you. So thank you so much for your attention, and I hope you have a great evening.
All right, thank you, Wendy. Next, we have Jessica Austin, also of MIGBC. Is going to go over her role, and then we'll jump back on some slides and talk about the city's efforts. So really, the idea of Solarize is to bring together local unit of government, GLRAs, and nonprofit, partner organizations like MIGBC with a vetted, trusted contractor. Wendy mentioned Michigan Saves. We're really lucky to have Michigan Saves as the nation's first green bank, a great resource, and all of our contractors are vetted Michigan Saves contractors to be able to use that financing. So thank you, Jessica, for your work, and take it away.
Can you hear me? All right, good evening. My name is Jessica Austin. I am a program coordinator for Michigan Green Building Collaborative, and I'll be talking about our energy assistance program. Our energy assistance program provides free energy benchmarking assessments. Our goal is to help you reduce your monthly utility bill. What is the energy assistance program? It's energy benchmarking, building energy assessment, and an energy scorecard and an assessment report. What is energy benchmarking? Collecting all your utility data and benchmarking it and comparing it to other businesses in your industry. If you can see on that screen, that is what is in your final report. We'll go over that in more details after your energy assessment, and that is conducted by ASFAM, Small Business Administration of Michigan. What is an energy assessment? An energy assessment is an analysis of buildings that show how to reduce energy consumption and save on costs. These two pictures are examples of what isn't included in your report. So just your building details, a summary of what was found on your energy assessment, and then things that we can address. So mechanicals, controls, energy efficient upgrades. Program benefits of reduced utility bill, show leadership and energy efficiency. You can get access to rebates and incentives. One of our customers, or one of our enrollees in the first EAP program was Supermercado. They saved more than 25% in energy and up to $30,000 per year. And it also enrolled you in our Grand Rapids 2030 program. Who qualifies? Commercial businesses, for-profits, nonprofits, banks, and government buildings. This here is a timeline, it's usually 8 weeks. I won't go over it in details, it takes up to 8 weeks, but afterwards we'll follow with you for the next year or two. To see if you implemented any of the project's recommendations found on the energy assessment or on the energy assessment. And this here is a QR code, takes you to our enroll page at our MyGBC website on our WUFU form. So a lot of those programs or a lot of those upgrades that Electric Pay doesn't cover, our energy assessment will address, and then we'll give you, a list of companies that can help address LED lights, heat, ventilation, lighting, windows, so a lot of things that the electric pay program doesn't cover, the energy assistance program can help you cover and or address. And that is all I have. So I do have a few flyers. I won't be here the whole time, but I do have a few flyers. I'll leave those out in the back. And then if you have any questions, you can contact me or a few of my coworkers out here and Marshall. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Jessica. And now we're going to welcome up City of Grand Rapids, Jennifer Spiller. Really appreciate the city's partnership. Work with local municipalities all over the state. Grand Rapids is doing a lot of great work, so we're going to hear from Jennifer what they're up to.
Hi, I'm Jen Spiller. I'm the Healthy and Sustainable Buildings Policy Specialist with the City of GR Office of Sustainability, and I'm going to talk a little bit about why Solarize is important for meeting the city's goals. So why is the city interested in promoting Solarize? There are a lot of reasons, but overall, we see the benefits of lowering energy bills to create savings. It fosters economic growth and local workforce development. It reduces carbon emissions while improving environmental health. It promotes access to renewable energy while also strengthening resilience by reducing our dependency on the grid. And as a city, we have recently set some community-wide carbon emissions reductions goals. So 62.8% per capita by 2030 from 2019 emissions, and then 100% by 2050. And to meet these goals, we recently passed a climate action and adaptation plan. So this is a community-wide plan for how Grand Rapids can reduce greenhouse gas emissions and prepare for the impacts of climate change. And so this plan was co-created in partnership with community stakeholders and resident feedback. And so it's a very big plan. We have about almost 200 actions of things that we can do across energy, housing, buildings, transportation, food systems, nature-based solutions. But in this case, Solarize really fits well with our energy systems goals, with one of the actions being to create a Solarize program to educate on solar options, leverage tax credits, and offer group-wide discounts to reduce the costs of purchasing solar. And so with this plan too, we really want to emphasize that this plan is not just what the city will do, but what the community as a whole can do, because climate change is a all hands on deck situation. And so we really want to encourage everyone to get involved as best they can and support those who want to put renewable energy on their building. If you'd like to learn more about what the city is doing around energy, my colleague Kat Hart created an energy page that you can see linked here, grandrapidsmichigan.gov/energy, as well as you can learn more about some solar that we're trying to get onto a former landfill site, the Butterworth landfill, just southwest of here, at grandrapidsmichigan.gov/Butterworth. And there's a QR code here if you'd like to learn more about the climate plan. And so for commercial and nonprofit buildings, overall, I would recommend reaching out to, like, if you have questions about siting for solar and permitting, I'd recommend reaching out to our development center solar panel assistance. And the number is here on the screen, 456-4100, or you could email devcenter@grcity.us. So my part was a little brief, but if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. This is my contact info. And if you'd like to hear more about what our office is up to, there's a newsletter sign up QR on this side. So thank you very much.
Next, we're going to hear from Adam Phillips of Absolute Solar. Their CEO and co-founder, Rob Carricker, is here as well. Really appreciate Absolute. They do great work across the state. Adam's a solar customer himself, so he's got a great experience. Let Adam take it away. Thanks, Adam.
Wonderful. Thanks, Marshall. Yeah, we're happy to be here. And again, thanks to Fountain Street Church and, City of Grand Rapids for being here. We're happy to help everyone learn a little bit more about how they can become solarized in their business and nonprofit. So a little bit about, our company. I wanted to dive into that because, our company was founded just over 10 years ago. It's an exciting achievement for us. The owners of our company actually met at MSU studying environmental law. So, instead of creating a top-down approach with policy and precedent, they really wanted to do a grassroots change. That's where this company came from. So that's, our background in it all, because that's kind of our biggest goals is to be sustainable and renewable, because, studying environmental law, that's kind of half the battle. But once they started that, they kind of turned this into a really cool snowball effect. It's been a great thing for the last 10 years, being locally owned and operated right here in Michigan. Having everyone, being licensed and insured, having master electricians on staff, super important. You just want to make sure, you're dealing with the right people as far as the installation side, inspections, everything that has to get done by the book there. And that's what we provide. We're doing turnkey installations. We're doing it from the start to the finish. We're handling all the permitting sides, the interconnection applications with the utility, of course, clientele, even with dealing with the elective pay and the credits, and making sure we have all the documentation from all the suppliers and making sure we have the documents for those eligible incentives. Another big thing that we provide is monitoring and service after the sale. This is a big part of what we take pride in, because once the system is installed, that's the beginning of our relationship, not the end. We look at that as now we can actually start navigating how this works for you long term, and being able to service that is a big part of what we, the foundations and the philosophy of our company. So that's something that we'll be able to do for you in perpetuity. So basically our plan to get the ball rolling with anybody that is looking into solar is just figuring out kind of how your system is going to be designed. We have a comprehensive plan that goes into LiDAR detection and looking at your building and your specific plan based on your energy usage. And we want to factor in basically what is going to work for your business, your nonprofit, basically any building that has an electric meter associated with it. And what we're looking at is the type of return on investment that you want. We try to customize that exactly to your liking and to your need, into your financial plans for your future. So that's a big part of what we're going to be doing for you guys. We're also identifying just optimal solar production areas. We're looking at not only LiDAR, but we're looking at irradiance platforms. We have a lot of satellite imagery and weatherization data that's telling us exactly what we need to know for where the most optimal places for solar are on the building. And so we'll be able to kind of specialize that to the building's needs and get it exactly where you want to be. And then from there, we can kind of finalize exactly what that would look like from an ROI perspective. We have a really great software that shows us over a 25-year spreadsheet of how the money breaks down over time and how this compounds as utility rates keep rising. So it's a beautiful thing to look at, and that's why we want to try to get you guys the best kind of system based upon what your goals and needs are. So I know a lot of folks have already talked about the tax credits, the fact that they're still available for, commercial and nonprofit entities. So there is still time for those things to be achieved. I don't need to dive too deep into it because we've spent some time on it already, but it is a beautiful thing that is still available till the end of 27. There is some time for businesses and nonprofits to take advantage of that. And if you are a commercial business, you actually still can apply for 100% bonus depreciation, which is a really big tax incentive and break for those types of entities. So yeah, we can look into that as well. But I can skip through that because we have already talked about that at length. So how it works with the utility company, because that's a big part of what we have to do, is navigate how much energy are you using. So once we know with your bill, the most recent 12 months of electrical data is going to tell us this information. And then the utility company, believe it or not, has a say in how much solar you can install on your building. They allow you to go up to 110% of what you're annually consuming. It's called distributed generation. And so they do provide credits for excess generation. The credit rating is not the best, but it is something that you can still achieve a good return on. But that's where we're looking at the ROI of your system and looking at if we wanted to do a quicker return, finding that happy medium with like a 50, 60, maybe 70% electrical offset, as opposed to a larger system. You can still get a great return that way, but it may extend it just slightly. But that's something that we figure out for you. We go through the utility company if you do decide to move forward with this. In the beginning stage of it, just getting your utility bill is everything. So then we can start diving into how much energy the building is using. And then we can go through exactly how to make that process work from a permitting and utility interconnection application side. So everyone in this room has a utility bill, believe it or not. Unfortunately, everyone in this room has already seen the impact of those utility bills, and they're continuing to rise. Being in Grand Rapids, consumers' energy is probably their primary utility that most of you are on. DTE could be, and sometimes even third-party utilities are going to be in the similar bracket. But the rate of the utilities cost for the electrical is going up and up. In May of this year, consumers got an 8.9% rate increase. You guys are all starting to see that on your bills. And the moment that they could ask for a raise on that, they did. I think it was the day of. In June, they asked for another 9.8% increase for next year. So the reason why is kind of the elephant in the room. We're seeing data centers come online, and a lot of people are talking about those electrification of your home. That is something that is happening across the board, where people are using more electricity, whether it's EVs, changing things out from gas to electric. And those are all good things. But if your energy costs are going up at the same time, that's where, it's going to be a real impact for those people. And obviously with DT and consumers, they're the ones that kind of reap the largest benefit of that, because it's essentially monopoly in the system. So this is just a graph that kind of shows what's going on from a kilowatt hour perspective, what you're being charged for your energy. As you can see in this graph, the rates really almost, throughout time have really never gone down. And this only goes into 2024. Now that the data centers are really starting to come online and people are starting to talk about this more, they're realizing how much energy and demand is happening with these types of entities kind of coming into cities, doubling the energy and demand for some of these cities. It's pretty dramatic. And right now the utility companies are thinking about that. Of course they are. And that's why they're already raising their rates by 8, 9, and sometimes 10% a year. So these numbers are not going to go down, unfortunately. And the best way to kind of solve that problem is kind of what we provide. So with a grid connected solar system, which is what we'd be installing for you, it's basically offsetting the largest chunk of your energy throughout a renewable source, which is the sun. The way a solar system works essentially is with a solar panel is the first line of defense other than the sun. That is creating direct current energy for your panels, and that gets converted into AC power through an inverter. And that is actually going to work into your home's energy. So it offsets your lights and your AC units and everything that's powered through the alternating current in your home. And then any excess energy that the solar system is generating throughout the day, in certain moments of the day, you're going to be sending excess energy out to the grid. And that's where you see that little connection point to the grid there. It's also connected to the grid, and you do get a bidirectional flow of that energy. So if there is more energy being generated through the solar system than what your home needs in a given moment, it can get backfed out into the grid, and you do get credited for it. If you have a battery, however, that can actually be the first line of where the energy gets drawn and where you can create the most value of that excess generation. So then you're not kind of getting devalued on the credit that you do receive. So those are things that we can help you out with too, as you navigate your process here. These are just some examples of installations we've done for businesses over the course of our tenure here. And, to our, I guess this would be the left. We have a school we worked on most recently in the Lansing area. We have a couple ground mounts, as you can see, different areas throughout the city. We did a church right in the center there. And then an Aldi was, we've done a handful of them as well. So it's just kind of good to see different examples, whether it's on a roof, on a ground mount, there's different options for every building. There's always a solution for you guys there. So we're happy to help. And this is just an example of a commercial business in the area, a system size of, a normal size building, probably a couple 100,000 square feet, is about a 70 kilowatt system is what we designed for this business. And this was with 440 watt modules, 161 panels. This was offsetting about 67, 2/3 of their energy throughout the year. The graph that you can see on the right here in the red shows their consumption profile throughout each month. And then what we do when we analyze every person's property is we're factoring all these things in with a solar design and software that actually shows us how much energy we should be able to produce with those panels in those places and that are optimal. And as you can see, this one is not being exposed to too much excess generation, which is ideal for those that are looking to achieve that quickest return on investment. With commercial businesses, specifically, they have the best incentives out there right now. It's a beautiful thing to see that there is not only the 30% tax credit and sometimes bonus credits if you have the right product and plan in place and location sometimes, but also just the way that your bill savings comes in, not only with bonus depreciation, but the way that the bill savings comes and how that actually compounds over time. As you can see, with the 25-year bill savings on this plan alone, they're $1.26 million is their expected energy savings just over the course of time. And the reason it's 25 years is that's typically where a lot of the materials are warranted to. Now the panels are usually at the 30-year mark, but the panels in the system is designed to last well longer than that. And that's where at least the starting point is for these systems. So you can kind of see how these are paying back for themselves. You know, as you can see in this design, this was a payback period of a little over 5 years. And so some of these systems are designed with optimal areas of production. And a lot of businesses and commercial buildings have flat roofs with nothing but open sun. And this was another example of that. So that's, you know, just again, a good example to see how this can actually pay for itself in a very quick way over the course of time. And we also do have a reference. They weren't able to make it here tonight, but you know, he's a great resource for us. We've done multiple installations for this church in East Lansing. He gave us, he's very nice, Dale Rasmus, he gave us his contact info. So if you guys have any questions about how it works for churches generally, or how to go about the direct pay incentive, because they were able to capture that with their second iteration of their the ground mount that they did with us in 2024. Their first iteration was the flat roof that you can see on the first image there. But yeah, Dale is a great resource, and he'd be happy to field any questions if you have any. And again, I don't need to go too deep into the financing. Obviously, if you have cash, cash is king. That's great. That's the best way to kind of get the quickest return on it. With financing, of course, with Michigan Saves, they're another fantastic option. As you saw in the first image with me, that was my house in the background. I have solar in my own house. So I went through Michigan Saves in the process there. So they do a really great job vetting through different lenders in the state. And then they do offer bridge loans as well for those types of entities that are nonprofits that are looking to secure some of those credits too. Again, if you are able to do this through a HELOC or anything like that, that's an option for homeowners and things. But for businesses and nonprofits, Michigan Saves is a great opportunity to look into. The other option, if you know, if finances are a little bit on the tighter side with whether or not the cash or the financing through a structured loan is not an option, power purchase agreements, also called PPAs in the industry, are available as well. So those are things that actually can help nonprofits and businesses get a zero cost system. Essentially, it reduces the bill by a smaller margin than what you did if you paid for it outright. But it's something that you get free of charge. It sounds too good to be true, but it's actually a beautiful thing right now. While tax credits are still available, these options are still available as well. So that's where it really is beneficial to look at this as, you know, if again, the finances are a little bit limited, this is the backstop that can really help you and your business look at nonprofit, if you're a nonprofit as well, to be able to secure a PPA because again, there's zero upfront cost and you're still going to be guaranteed to get immediate savings on your energy bill. And the nice thing is too, is that with a PPA, it's a third party ownership. So there's no real operational responsibilities for the property owner. That's something that, you know, with partnerships that we have developed, we'll be the contractors installing the systems and we can help maintain them within the third party as well. And the great thing is too, is that a lot of these structures are set up in a way that after 20 or 25 years, depending on the plan, the actual ownership of that system transfers to the entity at no cost. So again, you really do get a great deal. I mean, it's the best deal ever. You get a free system on the front and on the back end, and you do get to save on your electric bills and become a renewable source of energy, which is just a great thing. So let's get into the group buy and how this all works. I know we dove into it a little bit here, but the way the Solarize group discount works is that essentially everybody in this group that wants to get involved, being a business or a nonprofit, is eligible now to capture a minimum 5% discount on the solar's cost for the project. And so that discount actually grows depending on how many people are involved in the project, you know, and it caps out to 15. So if we get up to 15 people signing up, that'd be a 15% discount for everybody involved. And so that's a beautiful thing that we love to see for just, you know, the fact that with commercial businesses and nonprofits, being able to capture those discounts on the front end is a good starting point for savings, but being able to increase that based on attendance is another one of those things that we just have been loving to do. Last year, we did a great Solarize event in Grand Rapids, and we capped out the discount for the residential group, and it was a fantastic turnout for everyone. So we're happy to see that growing into the business community as well. And like I said, and what we talked about is the federal tax credits that they're available. You know, you can get more than 40 or 50% essentially of a discount on your system, factoring in the the Solarize group discount with the tax eligible incentives or direct pay incentives as well. So we can talk a little bit about the timeline because that's the most important thing. I know with commercial and nonprofit entities, there's always a time crunch on how, there's a lot of people involved that need to take action and look at this and dive into it. The first step, of course, is just to contact us and let us know if you want to get a free quote. Here we are at the Solarize meeting tonight on the 16th. And again, thank you for everyone to come out in this kind of smog that we've been dealing with currently with the wildfires. The deadline to request a quote is 2 weeks from now. So we just need you to give us a heads up that you want to get a quote, send us a bill that's 2 weeks away. So you have time on that. That's step 2. Step 3 is essentially the deadline to receive the quote. Once we have the bill and we're starting that conversation, we come out and do a site visit. If you're looking at doing that, then we would give us 2 weeks to basically put all the information together. So then we can give you a formal quote with all those design and financial summaries that'll dive into your financials there. And then after that, we're going to give you guys a handful of weeks, 15, it looks like, until we get to the deadline for this group. It's just right before Thanksgiving. We wanted to give you guys enough time to make those decisions. I know there's a lot of board meetings involved and different groups that need to take these steps and look at your financials for these types of things. And that's something that we want to make sure that you guys have enough time to do. And we are happy to be facilitating any of those group meetings or any questions. That's where a lot of the follow-ups can come into play, or any talking that you need to do with any of your financial advisors or things like that. So once we get to the final deadline there, just before Thanksgiving, we'll get to the final group discount. And then that's my favorite day, because then I can update everyone's quote with a larger discount than what we sent them initially. That's always fun. So once we get to that final stage, I'm going to be updating everybody's signed contract who has moved forward with that updated group buy discount with the final total. And then, savings for all becomes. So then I've talked about this already, but the next step really for anyone that wants to get a quote is just to provide us with a utility bill. Again, once we have that PDF copy, the front and back is everything we need to show us the kilowatt hour data for your most recent 12 months of history. Some of the commercial buildings that we deal with, we may need to get all 12 bills, just because sometimes the way that the utility companies now show the information is only one bill at a time. But if it is able to see it all in one bill, that's fantastic. That's a good starting point. And then we can navigate that with you. So we just need to get a bill, and then we can actually start that process. And again, I'll leave our QR code up here too, because that's just directly goes to our website. I got my name up here as well with my contact info. And, if there's any questions, whether or not you want to send that in through the website, or we can always field those at any point too. So happy to talk to you guys as much as you need.
A little on time, so if we have any questions, we can answer those burning questions now. Otherwise, feel free to reach out. We do have the residential portion starting soon, so if there's any questions, now's the time.
Thanks, Marshall.
Well, I'm not hearing any, so we will be starting the residential portion in just about 5-10 minutes or so. And then, Adam and the rest of us, Rob, will be here if you have any commercial questions.